I'm going to speak a little bit about David Goggins today. I first came across David Goggins a couple years ago, quite popular on podcasts and social media today, and he wrote a book that I think was a bestseller. But for those of you that are not familiar with him, he's an ex-Navy SEAL that was highly decorated, and then he became this fitness guru who encourages people to really push themselves beyond their normal domain, And so he's very strong mentally, and his book encourages this kind of mindset where he's an ultra marathon runner. Like, he just runs for hours and hours and hours, and he's this endurance athlete. And his view is that everybody can do the same, and it's all just in your head. And I don't agree with that, but I'll explain a little bit more about him. So he served in the U.S. Air Force, became a Navy SEAL. He also became an Army Ranger. He wrote a book called Can't Hurt Me, about his philosophy and his life and how he grew up. He had a pretty tough childhood and he overcame it. He especially overcame being overweight a bit when he was younger, and now he's very fit. He almost looks like a model. And his view is that you can push yourself beyond what you think your limits are, and that's what he's consistently done, and he attributes his success to that. But I think that that's not a good thing to encourage, because I don't think it's not about being mentally tough to push yourself beyond your limits, right? Like, for me, it's about understanding how the structure works, doing things that make sense, right? Like, if your entire body is twisted, do not force yourself to do long runs, because you're just going to do more damage to your body, and there is no benefit, right? Like, if anything, you're just grinding your teeth down faster, and therefore you're going to be worse and worse. When I looked at him, he's got this, he was a bit overweight before, and now he's got this great body, but structurally, even when he was a bit overweight, he had a very good spine. He had a very healthy profile, very healthy looking skull, and therefore when he pushed himself to lose the weight, it just carved up, what was already a very good skeleton. Whereas most people, they have no profile, and they've got a very, twisted body, and therefore when they do a lot of exercise, they're just going to twist themselves further up, and they're not going to look like David Goggins, right? And I bet 90 something percent of the people out there that try to repeat what he does are finding that out and are probably just hurting themselves right now. And I'll give one example. One example is Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser is the Hollywood athlete. He was in The Mummy and a bunch of, he's been famous for many, many years. And he's well known because he had this, hunk, great looking guy when he was younger. And then he turned into this overweight guy with no neck, and did a movie where he was really obese. And he is a good example of, he did something to roll up his neck, right? He did something that changed his spine and his skull, or something dental, most likely. I don't know what it was. But now, he's been trying to get back into shape, and he's a great example of, you don't fix your structure by doing exercise and dieting, right? So there's articles written about him now where yes, he's lost a bunch of weight, but no, he still has no profile, and his skull still looks like, a middle-aged man, not like David Goggins. So he's a great example of, okay, even if you have access to the world's best workout, trainers and diets, you can do all that, but you're not going to change your structure. It just doesn't work like that. The part that I do agree with David Goggins on is that you need a strong mental game, right? And he's very mentally tough. And it's honestly it's a lot easier to be mentally tough when you have very good structure. And it's a lot harder to be mentally tough when your structure is very bad. And I've experienced both sides myself. It is much easier to be mentally tough these days than it was 4 years ago for me, right? So if I tell myself, okay, I'm just going to push myself to work really late tonight and finish this, that is a ton easier now than it was 3 years ago, right? And does it have to do with me being mentally tougher? No. It has to do with me having fixed my structure, and therefore it's a lot easier to be mentally tough. But even when I was really messed up 3 or 4 years ago, why didn't I just bottom out and give up? That does come down to some true mental toughness, in my view, where you have to find it within yourself to really say, hey, I'm going to push myself. I'm going to get out of this. And that is a very fundamental thing to beating this thing. So for that reason, I do agree with David that in this game of structural collapse, you need to be tough mentally to push yourself. And even now, I'm not done. I've been in this game for 10 years, but I would say that I'm as motivated to finish the process as I am now as I was back in 2015 and 16 when I was still relatively fresh. My desire and drive to beat this thing has not reduced in 10 years and probably hasn't reduced much during that entire 10-year span. Like, I put a lot of effort, and a lot of that effort just ended up going in circles, but it didn't matter. Like, my mental game is such that, like, I'm going to beat this no matter what. And I just have like an endless amount of drive to beat it. And that's what I encourage your mindset to be, right? Because that is kind of what you need to really push yourself, because it is a long-term game, in my view. Part of what drives me is, I think, part of what drives David. And he has this quote where he said, "Turn darkness into power." And what he means is, like, he's got some of this, like, this darker side to him that motivates him. And I can say that it's the same with me. Like, when I think about what is driving me to achieve what I want to achieve, it is the people that told me that I was full of shit or laughed it off. I want to, when I'm done, look amazing, function amazing, go back and see those people and laugh at them. And that's about it. Like, I guess that's like who I am a bit, right? But that darkness inside me drives me every day.